In late August 2005, standard operations continued across the Gulf Coast region. New Orleans maintained urban functions behind a federally certified levee system designed to withstand Category 3 hurricane conditions. The city's below-sea level geography had been managed through engineered flood control infrastructure for decades. Weather monitoring systems tracked a tropical disturbance entering the Gulf of Mexico on August 24. Coastal communities prepared according to established protocols. The baseline assumption held that levee protection would contain storm surge within predicted parameters. New Orleans occupies a bowl-shaped depression between Lake Pontchartrain to the north and the Mississippi River to the south. Elevation ranges from 6 feet above sea level along natural levees to 10 feet below in former swamp basins. The metropolitan area housed 1.3 million residents in August 2005. Urban development had extended into drained wetlands over 80 years. Flood protection consisted of earthen levees, concrete flood walls, and pumping stations operated by local levee boards. The system was designed to federal specifications but had documented maintenance deficiencies. Critical infrastructure, including hospitals, power plants, and water treatment facilities, operated at or below sea level. Evacuation routes depended on elevated interstate highways and surface streets vulnerable to inundation. Tropical Depression 12 formed over the Bahamas on August 23, 2005. The system crossed southern Florida as a Category 1 hurricane on August 25, producing limited damage. Upon entering the Gulf of Mexico, sea surface temperatures exceeded 30 degrees Celsius. Atmospheric conditions allowed rapid intensification. By August 27th, the storm achieved Category 5 status with maximum sustained winds of 175 miles per hour. The central pressure dropped to 902 millibars. Forecast models projected landfall between the Florida Panhandle and southeastern Louisiana. On August 28th, the storm weakened slightly to Category 4 but expanded in diameter. The hurricane made landfall near Buras, Louisiana at 0610 hours on August 29th as a Category 3 system with sustained winds of 125 miles per hour. Storm surge generation began 24 hours before landfall as sustained winds drove Gulf waters northward. The shallow continental shelf amplified surge height through coastal funneling. Eastern New Orleans and St. Bernard Parish faced surge approaching 20 feet above normal tide levels. Lake Pontchartrain experienced sustained southerly winds pushing water against the northern levee system. Wave action added 2 to 3 feet to static water levels. The Industrial Canal received combined surge from Lake Bourne to the east and rainfall accumulation exceeding 8 inches in 12 hours. Surge height at the mouth of the Mississippi River Gulf outlet reached 25 feet. The Chandeleur Sound recorded a storm tide of 16 feet. Peak surge occurred between 0800 and 1000 hours on August 29. The first major breach occurred at the Industrial Canal near the lower Ninth Ward at approximately 900 hours on August 29. Floodwall sections separated from underlying sheet pile foundations due to inadequate soil anchorage. A second breach opened on the opposite side of the canal 30 minutes later. The 17th Street Canal floodwall failed at 900 hours along a 200-foot section. Failure analysis later identified gap formation between the concrete wall and steel sheet piling. The London Avenue Canal experienced dual breaches at 1,000 hours. Eyewitness accounts documented rapid water discharge through breach openings 100 to 200 feet wide. Subsequent engineering investigations determined that design specifications had not accounted for soil mechanics under sustained hydraulic pressure. No structural redundancy existed to contain breach propagation. Water discharge through levee breaches exceeded drainage pump capacity within 2 hours. The city's pump stations required electrical power. 17 of 22 stations lost function by noon on August 29th. Gravity flow from Lake Pontchartrain through the 17th Street breach filled Lakeview and Mid-City at rates of 1 foot per hour. Eastern New Orleans received combined inflow from Industrial Canal and Gulf surge. Basin topography directed water toward lowest elevations. The lower Ninth Ward reached 12 feet of inundation by 1400 hours. Downtown areas behind Mississippi River levees remained dry. St. Bernard Parish experienced complete inundation with depths exceeding 15 feet. Flooding stabilized after 36 hours when interior water levels equalized with external sources. 80% of New Orleans' land area remained underwater. Electrical grid failure began with transmission tower collapse in Plaquemines Parish at 0700 hours. Energy substations flooded by 1200 hours, eliminating power to 800,000 customers. Telecommunications infrastructure lost backup power within 24 hours. The 911 emergency system ceased operation. Water treatment plants shut down due to flooding and power loss. Natural gas distribution experienced multiple line breaks. Interstate 10 remained passable as an elevated corridor. All surface roads became impassable. Louis Armstrong International Airport suspended operations. The Superdome, designated as a shelter of last resort, housed 30,000 people without functional sanitation systems. Charity Hospital maintained generator power but faced supply exhaustion. Sewage systems reversed flow due to hydrostatic pressure. Potable water supply ceased citywide by August 30. The New Orleans Police Department reported 80% personnel absence by August 30. Fire and rescue services operated without communication systems or navigable routes. The Louisiana National Guard deployed 4,000 troops but lacked watercraft for urban rescue. Federal Emergency Management Agency coordination centers in Baton Rouge experienced communication delays of 12 to 24 hours. The U.S. Coast Guard initiated helicopter rescues on August 29. Capacity reached 200 rescues per day against estimated 50,000 stranded residents. Evacuation of hospital patients required 5 days. The convention center became an unplanned shelter for 20,000 people without supply distribution systems. State and federal coordination failures resulted in delayed supply convoys. Military assets arrived in operational numbers on September 2, 4 days post-landfall. Mandatory evacuation orders issued on August 28 resulted in departure of approximately 1.2 million residents. Between 100,000 and 150,000 remained in the metropolitan area. Coast Guard and civilian rescues extracted 33,000 residents from rooftops and flooded structures between August 29 and September 4. Confirmed deaths totaled 1,833 across Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. New Orleans accounted for 1,577 fatalities. 40% occurred in the lower Ninth Ward and St. Bernard Parish. Drowning represented 67% of deaths. Average victim age exceeded 65 years. Floodwaters persisted for 43 days in eastern sections. Complete drainage required until October 11th. Property damage exceeded $125 billion. Displacement extended beyond 1 year for 400,000 residents. Population return stabilized at 70% of pre-storm levels by 2007. Emergency pumping operations commenced September 5 using portable equipment and repaired stations. The Army Corps of Engineers sealed major levee breaches with sandbag and rock barriers by September 12. Full drainage of New Orleans Bowl completed October 11, 2005. Debris removal generated 118 million cubic yards of material, requiring 18 months for disposal. Electrical grid restoration achieved 50% coverage by November 1. Water distribution systems required replacement of 250 miles of pipe. Natural gas service resumed to 60% of customers by December. Interstate highways reopened within 3 weeks. Surface streets required flood damage assessment and repair extending into 2006. Housing demolition orders affected 134,000 structures. Federal recovery funding allocations reached $120 billion across multiple agencies and programs. The Army Corps of Engineers released its performance evaluation on June 1, 2006, documenting design and construction deficiencies in the levee system. The analysis identified inadequate factor of safety calculations, poor soil investigation, and use of substandard materials. congressional investigation concluded on February 12, 2006, with findings of institutional failure across local, state, and federal agencies. The National Academy of Engineering published independent review on May 24, 2007, confirming that breaches resulted from engineering mistakes rather than storm forces exceeding design parameters. Legal settlements totaling $14.5 billion addressed negligence claims. The Hurricane and Storm Damage Risk Reduction System Reconstruction Program initiated with $14.5 billion in congressional appropriations. Construction of upgraded levees, flood walls, enclosure structures required 12 years, completing in 2017.